Welcome back to my channel. My name is Blair if you're new here, and today we're going to do a bake with me. The recipe that I found was on Pinterest, and I of course will share the link down below, but it is a pumpkin coffee cake, and once again it's kind of a layered thing. I don't know why I keep finding layered desserts or treats to make, but we're gonna do it because it's pumpkin season and I really wanted something pumpkin. If you've watched in the past, I usually do like a pumpkin cinnamon sugar muffin recipe that's really good, but I need to change it up. It's time to do something new, so we're gonna try this coffee cake out. I have the recipe printed. I've got a lot of ingredients out. I'm gonna walk you through it. The first step though is to preheat your oven to 350 and then to line an 8x8 baking pan with parchment paper. So I went ahead and did this ahead of time because last time it took me forever to get it just so. And I didn't want to waste time doing that today. So I am going to go ahead and preheat the oven though. And then we're going to start with the streusel topping layer, and I'll show you the ingredients and what we're doing in just a second. For the streusel topping, we're going to use flour, brown sugar, ground cinnamon, and then 4 tablespoons of butter, which I do need to melt. So to start, I went ahead and got the butter into the microwave to melt, and then you just mix your dry ingredients together and whisk them so they kind of blend up. Once your dry ingredients are mixed well, you're going to add in your melted butter, and then you just kind of mix this up so it creates like a dry, crumbly mix. It will not be like smooth or blended well. So this is the streusel layer. It says to just kind of get it clumpy. I think I've got it pretty well mixed, so we're just going to set this aside and then start on the actual pumpkin coffee cake part. For the coffee cake, we need flour, brown sugar. Up here I have sour cream and an egg that have been sitting out because they're supposed to be room temperature. And then we've got ground cloves, cinnamon, ginger, and nutmeg, vegetable oil, salt, baking powder, baking soda, and pumpkin puree. It says not the pie filling. So I started by getting the pumpkin out because I knew I wasn't going to use the whole can, and that way I could just measure out what I needed and put the rest away. And then you want to start by mixing all your dry ingredients, so the flour, the brown sugar, the baking powder, baking soda, and all of your seasonings. Oh, and the salt. Once you got the dry ingredients mixed and set aside, we're going to do the wet ingredients, which will be the pumpkin, the oil, oh, and you put some brown sugar in this as well, actually. And then don't forget about the egg and the sour cream. That needs to be mixed in here as well. So you'll mix your wet ingredients together till it's well blended. You're going to combine the wet ingredients with your dry ingredients. I highly recommend having a bigger spatula, wooden spoon, whatever you're going to use. Mine was a little small and I felt like I had to keep mixing it a little more than I should have because it does make it clear not to overdo it because you'll make it very dense if you do. Now we're going to go back to the prepared pan that we already set up earlier, and you're going to put half of the pumpkin mixture into the pan and use an offset spatula to kind of smooth it out as best as you can into a thin layer. This is very thick, so it did keep moving my parchment paper around. But once you get the first layer smoothed out, then we're going to add a little bit of the crumble mixture that we made to it. And now we're going to layer again. So to do the pumpkin mixture, the best way to do it is put it in little spoonfuls on it, so you're not trying to spread like a large glob around, because this is something you want to be careful with. You don't want to move around your crumble mixture too much, but you still want to try and get this spread out and as thin as possible so it's smooth. And then lastly, you're just going to top it off with the remaining of your crumble mixture and bake it for about 35 minutes in the oven. Once you get it out of the oven, you're going to take a toothpick and just stick it in the center to make sure it comes out clean. That's how you know it's cooked all the way through. And then I moved it from the oven to a cooling rack because you do want to let this cool down for a little while before you try to do the next step of putting the icing on. While the coffee cake is actually cooling, I'm going to make some icing that goes on top, and you just need powdered sugar, vanilla, and a little bit of milk. So I'm going to mix this up. Even though it's hot, I'm going to wait a little bit before I put it on immediately because I don't want it to like melt into it. So the icing is pretty straightforward. You literally just mix all of your ingredients together. I used like a measuring cup that had a spout on it, so it was easier to pour it out when it was time. So once it had cooled enough, I took it out of the pan before I put icing on it. And I will say the parchment paper made it so much easier to get it out as a whole piece. And then the icing I just drizzled across the top in a diagonal pattern. I don't know if there's any real rhyme or reason. I will say I think mine was a little too warm because the icing kind of melted into it a little more than I would want. We're all done baking. I've let it cool, put the icing on it, and I've cut it up. So I have a small piece here for me to try. I can tell you while I was cutting it open, or cutting it into squares, like the pumpkin smell when you got through the cuts, it just, oh, unreal. Perfect for fall. So I have a little piece of it here. We're gonna give it a whirl. And it's still warm. It is very good. I wonder what it'll taste like when it's cooler. But it's literally like pumpkin bread with like a coffee cake crumble. It's very, very, very tasty. It's definitely good warm. I'm wondering what it'll taste like though when it's cooled down. But definitely really well, not really well, but really good. And it's worth a shot to give it a try. If you do decide to make it, let me know. Leave it down in the comments. I'm curious to know if anyone else likes it as much as I do. As always, the recipe will be linked in the description box. But as always, I really hope everybody enjoyed, and I hope everybody has a blessed day.